This is gonna be a video about my testimony, how I got closer to God, what exactly happened in my life that made me get closer to God. In case you don't know me, my name is Sergio Ramirez. I'm 25 years old, I think. No, I am. And yeah, I'm a Catholic who goes to daily mass, and I love the Eucharist. I love my Holy Mother. But as we all know, as every cradle Catholic, we call ourselves cradle Catholic, but we are not as devoted. When I was little, my parents, they were Catholic. They taught us in the faith, but sadly, I mean, as we know, there were no smartphones, no internet back then, so they didn't taught us as good. I remember that like my dad and my mom, they would just take us to Sunday mass and that's it. Other than that, well, they did do something that it was really impactful in my life, and it stayed with me even until now. And that is that my dad forced us to pray the rosary every time we wanted to go outside, because my brothers and I, we were vagos. I'm not sure how you say it in English. We were always outside. We were always playing. We used to live in apartments. And I remember my dad would say, if you want to go outside, you have to pray a rosary. And that's what we did often. We pray a rosary together. It was like minimum once a week as a family. And this was really impactful for my brothers and I. And don't think I liked praying the rosary. Of course, my brothers and I, we didn't. We will pray the Hail Mary, like, Hail Mary, full of grace, Hail Mary, all mad. But that was my youth. When I got older, I remember that I kept going to Sunday Mass with my parents, and I hated it. Like, I'm being serious. I remember one day my aunt, she told me, Sergio, do you like going to Mass? I was like, no, I don't like it. Because let's be honest, which kid loves to go to Mass? Nobody, unless he's a saint. That's the only kind of people that love to go to Mass. Normal people like you and I'm sure that we didn't like to go to Mass when we were young. I didn't at all. Once I got into high school, platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and all these platforms started to come out. And I remember I noticed that a lot of people will post images about themselves, and they would get a lot of sponsors or likes or follows. And I wanted that. I wanted to, in a way, be loved by others. So I started to take pictures of myself, and then I noticed that men were taking pictures without a shirt on, and they had six pack. I had a six pack. Well, I still have one. And I was like, you know what? Let me do the same thing so I could get more likes. Like I said, it's something dumb. We fall into the trap of trying to fit in or trying to be popular just for a like. Like, come on. And I fall into that trap. I wanted to be like, I wanted to get a like. That was my God. I just wanted to get a like, which is dumb now that I think about it. And I remember I started to post a lot of bad things, photos of me without a shirt on. And doing so, I made a lot of girls fall into sin. What do I mean by this? Is that girls, they will send me pictures naked of themselves. Not because I asked them, but because of the content I was putting out there. I guess they thought that I was wanting pictures like that of other girls. No, that is the bad thing whenever you post inappropriate content, is that you're not just affecting yourself, but you're also affecting the people that consume that content. I remember after receiving pictures of the girls, in a way I was like, wow, this is not good. What I'm doing, it's not good. But you know how we are as humans, that we cover our eyes like, oh no, no, it's still good. I'm just gonna ignore it. And then TikTok came along. TikTok was worse. Because you know how everybody was doing dancers. They were getting a lot of likes, 1,000 likes, 5,000 likes, a million likes, whatever. And I started to consume content, and I started to analyze the content that was bringing a lot of likes. And I remember I noticed people dancing like Magic Mike without a shirt on. And I was like, you know what? Let me do that. Now that I think about it, it's kind of embarrassing just to say it. But I started to do things like that. Oh, yeah. So ashamed of even saying it. But if I'm saying this is for you to understand that I wasn't always close to my faith and to God. No, there were moments that, like I said, I wasn't close to God at all. And I remember every time I did those dances, there was an image of Mary, which we still have, that I didn't even want to look at that image because I knew I was doing something wrong. And that's the thing about sin. We know when we're doing something wrong. It's just that we try to ignore it, or no, I'm still doing good. No, like we understand that we're doing wrong, and that's our conscience. But everything changed for me after the death of my cousin Israel. He was 19 years old at the time of his death. I was 20 years old. I had barely 9 days before his death. I had barely turned 20. And just to tell you the story of his death, he was, well, I live here in El Paso, Texas. El Paso, Texas it has the border with Mexico, Ciudad Juarez. So what a lot of people do, they work here in El Paso and then they go back to Juarez because they have their house over there, which is really smart because they bring more money. And that's what my cousin did. He would live in Juarez. I mean, he had a house here as well, but he would live in Juarez and work here in El Paso. And the day of his death, he went to Juarez to get a haircut done and also to go with his mom. After he went to Juarez, he went to the first barber shop and he noticed that it was really packed, really full. He decided to go to another one. This barber shop was closed already, so he went to another one. They were about to close, so he decided to go back to the first one, the one that was packed and full, and he decided to wait. And then time went on. The barber started to cut his hair, but sadly, gang members entered the shop, and I guess they had conflicts with the barber guy, like the one who was cutting my cousin's hair, and they came in with guns and they were trying to kill the barber guy, like the barber, and they started to aim and shoot, boom, boom, boom. I mean, obviously, the human instinct of the barber was to cover himself, and he did that, but sadly, he covered himself with my cousin who was sitting in front of him. And sadly, my cousin received all the shots, and which is crazy. The barber didn't receive any shot. He survived, but my cousin died. Wrong time, wrong moment. And I remember that after his death, it was an eye-opening for me because like I was saying, at that time I was doing content which was terrible. And after his death, it was just an eye-opening. And it's crazy how one day you could be talking to a person and then the next day they're dead. I mean, that's life. Either we like it or not, we all gonna die. Maybe not as tragic as my cousin, but right now I could get in a car and I could get in a car accident and die. That's the reality. But I remember that after his death, it was an eye-opening for me. I started to tell myself and say to myself, you know what, Sergio? You're no better than him. You're not more important than him. No, you too could die at any moment. But having this knowledge of death, that I could die at any moment, it changed my life completely. I started to do my research about Catholicism. And like I told you, what I knew about Catholicism, it was minimum. Parents didn't knew much, so they didn't taught us as much. And I started to watch videos. I remember I came upon a video of hell and I got frightened and scared. I was like, you know what? I don't want to die and go to hell. The fear of hell, in a way, made me get closer to God. I better get my things together and start to invest my time on things that matter, which is God. It's just like somebody that wants to have more money. Where does he put that money? In the stock market, so it could grow and have more money and multiply. The same way it's with the spiritual life. Right now we have our time, which is our currency, and we have to invest it in things that matter, and that is God. And that's what I started to do. I started to get closer to my religion. I started to pray a lot. I remember I would go to work and the only thing that was in my mind, it was to go back to my house, get on my knees and pray the rosary and talk with God. And that period of my life, it was the most beautiful one because I was in love with prayer. And that is something that even now I don't feel that way. Obviously, yes, I'm in love with prayer, but not as much as back then. Nowadays, there's days that honestly I don't feel like praying. I don't feel like going to adoration or going to mass. Another thing that it helped me a lot, it was the sermons of Saint John Vianney. You haven't heard his sermons, you have to. These sermons are powerful. I always say to my mom, these sermons are to become a saint. If you live according to how he's telling us to live, you're going to become a saint. And if you don't, I mean, he's a bit, not for me, but I know that people consider him as being a bit strict or harsh because he tells you the truth. He's like, if you continue to live in sin, you're going to hell. That's simple. And I fell in love with those sermons because it taught me how to live my life as a Christian, as a Catholic, how I should really live it. Not just like a lukewarm Catholic that says that he's Catholic, but he doesn't even practices Catholicism. No, those sermons taught me that if I'm going to call myself Catholic, then I have to live as a Catholic. I need to love my neighbor. I need to forgive the people that have offended me. I need to pray. I need to give my effort to become a better Christian day in and day out. And I'm extremely grateful with Saint John Vianney, and I'm really devoted to him. I always ask for his intercession, and I recommend those sermons if you want to deepen your Christian life. Now I want to talk about a fast that I did when I was getting close to my faith. Like I said, I was falling in love with prayer, and I came upon a video of this group that was going to do a fast for a couple of days with only bread and water. I'm not going to say the amount of the fast because, like God said, don't let your left arm know what the right arm is doing. And I don't want you to know the amount. I want to keep that between God and myself. And I remember that I told myself, you know what? I'm going to do that fast with them. And I joined a WhatsApp group that they have created. It was quite a bit of people, And like I said, it was a couple of days. It was in 3 days. No, it was a couple of days. And I remember that during that fast with only bread and water, a lot of people, they were texting, I feel so in love with God. This fast has been helping me. I feel closer to God. I have deepened my prayer life. And I was like, what? What kind of fast are you doing? Because I was not feeling more spiritual. I didn't pray more. I was hungry. I was always mad. I was sinning more. I was offending my relatives more. I remember that after I finished that fast, I got disappointed because it seemed that all these men and women who fasted receive a blessing from God or they deepen their spiritual life. And in my case, I only suffer. I sin more and I was more mad. I remember that I finished the fast and I was disappointed. It felt like God abandoned me and I was really saddened and depressed. But God is so loving that He always has you in His mind. And He saw that I went through that fast, not as I would have loved to, because like I said, I got mad multiple times with my relatives. I mean, when you're hungry, you know how we get grumpy. So imagine only eating bread and water. I was extremely grumpy. And I'm a grumpy person already. So I was extremely mad all those days. But like I said, God is so loving that I thought He had abandoned me. But no, I remember that after the fast, my spiritual life grew immensely. I started to go to daily mass. I didn't even know there was daily mass. One day I think I was going to go to the chapel and there were people at church. I was like, what are they even doing here? I asked a lady and they were like, oh yeah, it's daily mass. I was like, daily mass? There's what? There's daily mass? And I started to go to daily mass. And even until now, I haven't stopped going to daily mass. I found love with mass. And if you found love with mass, it's because of the Eucharist. I came to find out that my Lord, body, soul, and divinity, He's truly present in the Eucharist. And I couldn't look back. And that's why I continue to go to daily mass, because I want to receive my Lord in my soul, in my body, and just be one with him. Now I want to talk about my entry to seminary and why I left. I was in a good place spiritually. Like I said, I was going to daily mass. I was praying often, the rosary daily. I was in a good place spiritually. And I remember I always had the thought of giving my life for God. But I was like, I'm not sure if that's my calling. I remember I watched a video on YouTube, and it was about a Franciscan priest. And the title of the video, it was, "Don't become a priest." I was intrigued. I was like, why is he saying that? I watched the video, and he was saying things such as, don't become a priest if it is because that's the only thing you can do. Don't become a priest if you can't find a girlfriend and that's your last option. Don't become a priest if you can't find a job and that's the only thing you can do. No, become a priest if that's really your calling. And for me, that video was impactful. I was like, wow, that's what it means to become a seminarian, to actually try to become a priest. It's not about these exterior situations that are going in your life, but what's inside of you. And like I said, I had that thought and I waited. I just had it in my mind. But one day I went to adoration and I was there with my Lord. And I started to ask questions to myself, such as, Sergio, what do you prefer? Do you prefer to have a family, kids, which is what I always wanted? Or do you prefer to be single for the rest of your life and have spiritual kids, which is the priesthood? And I also ask questions such as, do you want to have a business and have a lot of money, cars, travel? Or do you want to live as a poor person and sacrifice everything and suffer for God? And I always chose this path of suffering, of giving everything for God. And one thing that you have to know about me is that I love suffering for God. And I saw the priesthood as the biggest sacrifice a human being could do to God. And for me, that was like, if I really want to be a saint, if I really want to give everything to God, I need to enter priesthood. I remember that after that day, the day I went to adoration, I came back home. It was nighttime already. I called my brother. I was crying. I was telling him, bro, like, I think I'm going to enter seminary. I just want to suffer for God. I want to give everything to God. And he started to cry as well. Two men crying. And this is something that it's difficult for any family member to have a family enter a religious order, the seminary, or any religious order. It's hard for the family because, I mean, at the end of the day, you're losing that family member. You're not losing them, but you understand what I'm trying to say. It's not gonna be the same. And my brother, he was crying because of that, because he knew it wasn't gonna be the same. And even my parents, when I told them, I could see that in a way they were sad. Obviously, any parent would be happy to see their kids enter seminary or any religious order. But in a way, it's still difficult for them because, like I said, it's not going to be the same. They're not going to see their kids as much. I told my family, I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to enter seminary. I didn't know what to do or who to go with. But thankfully, here in El Paso, they were having a 3-day retreat for people who were thinking about seminary. It was like if everything clicked. And I went to the retreat. I got to meet other young men, holy, pure. I also got to meet the seminarians. And for me, that was the most impactful thing of the retreat. It was just meeting other men who loved God as much as I did. And you could see their happiness, how joyful they were. You could see that that was their calling. And they were happy with it. And that impacted me so much. And I remember that after leaving the retreat, I told my parents, you know what? I'm going to enter seminary. And in less than a month, or a month and a few days, I entered seminary. I did everything that I had to do and I entered. Seminary, once being there, it was the most precious thing ever. For me, the most beautiful thing about seminary is the family that you build there. It's like if God, knowing that you have left your family, you have given your life for Him, He gives you a new family. He gives you brothers. He gives you relationships that are going to last forever. And I built a family there. The other seminarians, it was just great living with them. But as the months kept going, I started to lose my faith. Like I said, I was a prayerful person. Like I didn't enter seminary just without any prayer life. I came in a way prepared. Like I knew what I was getting myself into. But being inside there, I just felt a dryness in my soul. I didn't even want to pray anymore. I was more unhappy. And I remember there was days that I would go to the chapel like around 11 p.m. when the rector and the other seminarians were asleep. I went to the chapel and I remember telling God, what is it that you want from me? I came here and now I feel abandoned by you. And after a long time discerning and talking with my spiritual director, I came to the conclusion that it wasn't for me. And I remember that the day I was going to tell the rector, I remember I went to the chapel and I prayed, I'm not sure for how long. And I told God, like, please, let you talk through the priest. I'm about to have this meeting with him. I'm about to tell him that this might not be for me, that I think I'm going to leave. Please, let the words that the priest speak be your words. And I remember I went into the meeting with my rector and I told him, you know what, Father, I think that this is not for me. I just feel it inside of me after a long time discerning, talking with my spiritual director. I think that this is not for me and I think I'm going to leave. And the rector, he said something that it brought me peace. He said, Sergio, when you came here, you were extremely happy and joyful. You had a smile from ear to ear. But now I have been noticing you and you're more sad. You don't talk as much. You're more depressed. And he said to me, being seminary is not just about you wanting to be a seminarian, but also that God wants you to become a seminarian. And he told me, he was like, you know what? I think that this is also not for you. And for me, that was such a relief because like I said, I prayed to God for him to speak through the priest, and the priest telling me this, it was the best feeling ever. And now, looking back at it, in a way I know why I entered seminary, and that's because, like the priest said, I wanted to be a seminarian. I wanted to give my life to God because I saw that as the biggest sacrifice. And I entered seminary. I never had that calling, but I just wanted to give my life to God. But like the priest said, it's not just about you wanting, but it's also about God wanting that for you. And now I know that that is not for me. Who knows? Maybe in the future, diocesan, definitely not. But who knows? Maybe I could become a monk, a Carthusian monk. Who knows? I mean, at the end of the day, only God knows. But I believe my calling is to be a family man. And I remember that once I left seminary, it was a bit difficult too. Like just going back to my parish and just telling people like I left seminary. Because in a way, I mean, you know that they're going to see you as a failure. They're going to think that, oh, he wasn't strong enough or he threw the towel, sadly. And I remember going back to my parish, people came up to me, they were like, Sergio, I've been praying for you, how's seminary going? And it just hurt so much to tell them, well, I left seminary. And in case you're wondering, I only lasted there, it was less than a year. It was like 7 to 9 months, I'm not sure, around there. I didn't last it long, but I'm glad I entered. Like I said, I am extremely grateful I entered seminary. It is the most beautiful thing, truly. On one side, if seminary is not for you, you leave with habits that are going to help you in your future vocation. You leave with a bigger knowledge of God. You leave with friendships that are going to last forever. But if priesthood is for you, what a blessing to know that you're going to become a fisherman of men. You're going to be able to consecrate a simple bread and wine into the body and blood of Jesus Christ. That is something that not even Mary and angels could do. Only priests. That's why I recommend everybody to enter seminary, because it's a win-win situation. You're gonna win either way. After leaving seminary, I did not stop my prayers. If something, my prayer life and my love for God grew even more. I know that sadly, when a seminarian leaves seminary, too often in times they stop praying. They stop doing the things they used to do in seminary. In my case, that didn't happen. If something, I started to pray even more. I kept going to daily mass. I lived with the hunger of bringing souls back to God. And that's why I created this YouTube channel and my Instagram and my Spanish YouTube channel, because I have that hunger myself. I might not be a seminarian. My vocation might not be to become a priest. My vocation, and not just mine, but everybody's, is to bring more souls to Christ, to inspire other people to love God. Because sadly, we have brothers and sisters that are walking through the path of hell, the path of the devil, and we need to bring them back to the path of God. And I have that hunger now, and I'm grateful that I entered seminary, because now I just want to serve God and help him as much as I can. And that is my story. But before finishing, I just want to let you know that I'm still a sinner. I still commit a lot of sins. I'm not perfect. Yes, I might go to daily mass. Yes, I might go to adoration. I might pray the rosary. But not just because I do all those things, it makes me perfect or it makes me holy. If something, I'm a bigger sinner. If I go to daily mass, it's because I need God. I understand that without him, I'm nothing. I cannot do anything without him. A lot of people have this misconception that, oh, look at that person, he goes to daily mass, they think they're perfect. No, if we go to daily mass, it's because we acknowledge our nothingness. We acknowledge that we need of him. We need of his presence in our life. We need his holy body. I'm still a sinner. That's just what I want to say. I'm a sinner, and I ask you to please pray for me. And let us also pray for vocations. And vocations does not mean that only priests or nuns. No, vocations is a family man, a wife. In general, vocations could be either or. Let us always pray for vocation. Thank you so much, and I hope this video, this testimony, it could help you in any way. I hope so. And please keep me in your prayers, because like I said, I'm a sinner and I need of your prayers. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Ciao.